I want to recognize the sacrifice that our essential members have made and all of their hard work to keep our communities fed and taking care of each other. We would not be here today in the situation that we are in today without them working so hard and then the company failing to respect them, protect them, and pay them. We're about a day and a half away from engaging in the largest labor dispute regarding grocery workers since 1996. The last strike we had lasted 42 days, and that was with King Soopers. King Soopers is the #1 chain in Colorado in terms of market share, and their parent company is the #1 chain in the United States. And one of the fundamental problems we have had to face is that we are dealing with a national chain and corporate lawyers from out of state during this whole negotiation process. We have not had local leadership from King Soopers outside of a labor relations, human resource manager that's here locally, but the rest of the bargainers are lawyers and corporate representatives from California, Cincinnati, and Portland. And frankly, these out-of-state representatives are not in touch with what is going on, the climate that our workers are working in, the high cost of living, housing in Colorado. They don't understand our contracts, and they don't understand Colorado values. The hard work and dedication of workers who have shown up every day during this pandemic was barely recognized by Kroger leadership when they took hazard pay away just weeks into the pandemic, even though their CEO received over a 21% wage increase right after they announced the elimination of hazard pay. For years, Local 7 has been asking the company to take serious steps to ensure that our workers have a safe work environment and our customers have a safe place to shop. Our members are working without control of their environment in busy stores, and they're being exposed to COVID. In fact, we have over 2,000 workers, we've had over 2,000 workers exposed to COVID, and we've had several members die. The company has done little to protect our workers in terms of social distancing, providing proper personal protective equipment, additional sanitation and cleaning in those stores, as well as hazard pay. For years, we've also asked for armed guards. Since 2018, we have asked for armed security or trained security to protect our members. We've seen an uptick in violent crimes in our stores. Our stores, pharmacies are being robbed. The stores there's constant activity of violent crimes that are happening in our stores. We are seeing, we've had violent behavior with customers, spitting, slapping, pushing our members, attacking them. Sometimes our members are in the middle of this mask issue in the stores, and they've been verbally and physically assaulted. Yet the company will not provide armed security in those stores. But right now, when they're facing a labor dispute, they have security at all of those stores to protect their assets. But during these last several years, even after what happened in Boulder, they have not enhanced security in those stores. The profit over all else model for these companies, that has more than it's affecting not just safety, but for years now, store shelves have been empty. And you're seeing that. You're seeing departments close early, deli departments, customer service, Starbucks departments are closing. And it's not really because of the supply shortages that we're seeing. It's because Kroger has systemically chosen to cut hours in work and pay workers low minimum wage at part-time hours. And the Great Resignation is real. Workers are rethinking their relationship with employers, and that's what's happening right now with King Soopers. Throughout the bargaining process, the mentality followed by inaction is continued. The company has also engaged in outsourcing our jobs and hiring third-party vendors or staffing agencies. We filed a lawsuit a couple of weeks ago in federal court to ask the court force King Soopers or Kroger to cease and desist that activity. That has a huge impact on our health plan and on our pension plans, as they are not paying for those third-party entities for those workers coming into our stores. Local 7 members demand an end to King Soopers' unfair labor practices. We have filed multiple charges with the National Labor Relations Board regarding the company not providing necessary and critical data and information so that we can cost out and evaluate proposals. They're directly dealing with our members, implementing unfair wages. They are discriminating and harassing, retaliating against members for union activity. And again, they are attempting to bargain directly with our members. The company has failed to bargain in good faith on important issues such as employee wages, health care, and safety. And of course, this is driven partly by the bargaining team, again, being composed by out-of-state lawyers. King Soopers has been misleading our workers and the community about its proposals at the bargaining table. They have told the media that they've proposed a package that's worth $148 million. But I can tell you, for workers that live in Denver County, they're proposing an entry pay of $16 an hour, which is only 13 cents above minimum wage for the largest grocer in the state of Colorado. That 13 cents is not going to improve the lives of our grocery workers who have done so much for these companies. The company, Joe Kelly, the new division president, I invited him personally to negotiations, and he showed up for one day for a whole 9 minutes. He stayed, he came in, he waved, he shook some hands, and then he left. He did not stay at the bargaining table to listen to the workers' proposals. So when the company is coming in front of our members or in front of the media or the community, and they say that they care about their workers, our workers were only worth 9 minutes to the Colorado division president. I'm here to announce today, though, that the company has been at least talking through the media to us that they want a federal mediator involved, and we are not interested in having a federal mediator. We believe at this process, where we are at this point, that adding another presence is not going to be productive. The company should stand in front of their workers and face them and listen to their proposals and continue to negotiate until we get to an agreement. However, we are we're willing to go back to the negotiations and go back to the table and meet with the company. But the company, for us to move forward, we need the company to provide critical and necessary information that we need so that we can move forward on our proposals. We have to have critical hours and data for healthcare and pension proposals, and there's a lot of information we need in terms of safety, for our safety proposals. We're willing to go back to the table, but we ask that if and when we get back to negotiations, that King Soopers local leadership show up to the bargaining table for more than 9 minutes, face their workers, and seriously consider our proposals. We also need the company, again, to provide the information that we need. We also want our members who are part of the bargaining committee to be released to come to negotiations, and also that we have both sides' actuaries come. Last week, we were prepared to reach an agreement with the company. We brought our healthcare and pension actuaries, but the company did not bring theirs. And we are in a big disagreement around funding and whether or not their proposal versus ours would cause an issue with our members losing their healthcare in the middle of the contract. And they were not prepared to do it. So if we are going to go back to the table, we want all of those things to happen. However, because we have little faith that King Soopers really intends to reach an agreement that meets the needs of workers, we are going to continue to prepare to pull the picket lines at 5 a.m. on Wednesday morning for the Denver metropolitan area. That's the greater metropolitan area, Broomfield, Parker, and Boulder. We are not establishing picket lines and pulling the Colorado Springs stores on Wednesday. However, we intend to do so at another date. The Denver Metro stores, there's between Denver, Parker, Boulder, and Broomfield, there are 78 stores involved. and over 8,700 workers that will be participating in this strike. We hope that the company leaders will meet with us in good faith and make real commitments and put their workers first. And on behalf of the union, we're grateful to our community, our union partners, and the public who have called, texted, reached out to us, come down. They've been putting yard signs out in front of their stores, and they support us. This fight is about our community too. One thing King Soopers forgets is that the workers here are part of the community that they serve. Well, our customers spend money in these national chains and our workers do all the work. Kroger takes their profits back to Wall Street. And their CEO and their corporate executives were able to cash in $1.5 billion in stock buybacks. Well, our members, they're proposing 13 cents over minimum wage. That's not how you treat community. That's not Colorado values. And we want the company to come to the table and sit down, face their workers, and bargain in good faith until we reach an agreement. And if not, we will continue to engage in a labor dispute with them. I do want to have some of the workers share their perspective, their experience working at the stores, and also what they have observed in negotiations so far. So I'm going to turn this over to Liz.
Thank you. Hi.
Liz, can you make sure you're in front of the microphone?
Okay, can I put this here? Okay, hi. I have been at bargaining on many occasions, and King Soopers absolutely has refused to bargain in good faith. They are not taking seriously the concerns of the workers. They are not listening to our proposals. They come in there with their proposals. When we have questions for them, they say things like it's not what they intended, or they don't know how to answer. They'll get back to us. However, they don't get back to us. They leave our bargaining committee members sitting in there with no answers and then come back with another proposal. That's not negotiating. That's not bargaining in good faith, in my opinion, and I've been around for quite a while. We have, as Kim said earlier, Joe Kelly continues to call us. We get 2 to 3 robocalls a day about how wonderful King Soopers' proposals are and how the union is wrong. But he's been there for 9 minutes at one bargaining session. It is definitely not King Soopers bargaining our contract this time around. It is Kroger. And when they leave, the aftermath that they leave the Colorado workers in, we're going to have to deal with here. And we want a better contract for our brothers and sisters here in Colorado. And it's time that we stand together and let Kroger know that we intend to make sure and hold them accountable for what we've been through the last couple years, and that we've been there for them, and now they need to be there for us.
Liz, can you give us your name and spelling, please?
Liz Wesley.
Come on up to the mic.
Liz Wesley. I'm a floral manager, Wesley, and 17 years.
Where do you work?
King
What
Soopers,
store? No.
King Soopers, 130 in Colorado Springs.
Give them your name, your spelling of your name, where you work.
Good. Hi, my name is Andreas Besseril, Andres Beccerril. I work at King Soopers 10 as a head clerk, and I have some safety concerns about the job that I do. We are understaffed right now, and when you are understaffed, you do not have the coverage you need to keep your store safe. There's spills on the floor that don't get touched for hours because we're stuck in check stands. There's customers that are irate because the departments are closed and they take it out on us instead. You know, the back rooms can't get filled properly, so they're a mess. You go check the freezers, they're backed up. There's product all over the place. You got mountains on top of everything. You know, after the Boulder shooting, they finally decided to take off the alarm sets on the doors on the emergency exits. And things don't change unless people get hurt with King Soopers. I don't think that's right. And unless they change that, I'm going to be out picketing on Wednesday at 5 a.m. So.
Carol, go ahead.
Your name, your spelling.
You could go ahead and take your mask.
My name is Carol McMillian, CarolMcMillian. I'm a bakery manager. I've been an employee for King Soopers for almost 7 years now. I struggle to pay my bills. I have a single income household, and I can make it. Sometimes I can pay my rent on time, but I'm one of the lucky ones. Let me tell you a little story about a young man that I know and I hold very dear to my heart. This young man rides the bus sometimes an hour and a half to 2 both ways to work, day and night, sunshine, rain, snow, blizzard, tornado, whatever. He's there on time. He's there with a smile. He's greeting the customers. He's friendly. He's happy. He always has a positive attitude. This young man lives in a shelter. This young man is not being paid a livable wage. He's been a King Soopers employee for 12 years now. Come on, King Soopers, you can do better than that. It breaks my heart to see my members suffering and struggling like that. He's just one of many that have this issue. We have members that live in their cars because they can't afford an apartment. Colorado's economy is very high. It's extremely high. So it's hard to make a living. King Soopers, you know that. I can remember back when the pandemic began, 2.5 years ago. We were heroes then, We got the hero pay for 6 weeks. At the end of that 6 weeks, guess who got bonuses? The King Soopers CEOs. So much for the workers. Shame on you, King Soopers. You can do better. You should do better. At the end of the day, all we want is an affordable wage, affordable health care, a livable wage, affordable health care, and a safe work environment. All we want you to do is protect us, respect us, and pay us. We deserve nothing less. We've been loyal for you. It's time for you to be loyal to us. Thank you.
Are you speaking to me? Okay. All right, I'm happy to take any questions. If we have any, go ahead.
Hi, Judy Kohler from the Denver Post.
Hi, Judy.
How are you?
Good.
Why does the union not want to have federal mediation?
Well, one, we think that it would bog down the process where we're already at now. And so with a federal mediator, we never see the company again. And that's a problem. We've had a federal mediator in other bargaining cycles or processes, and it hasn't worked. If we run into a problem with intent of language, some sort of contract language that comes out of that, there's no discussion on the record. That's another problem. But we think at this point, King Soopers needs to face its workers. I mean, we've had a deal already with corporate lawyers from out of state. We don't want to add another entity into the discussions. We want local leadership, decision makers, stakeholders to be at the bargaining table.
Is there a possibility of another session before Wednesday morning?
So I've had a conversation with one of the King Soopers representatives today, and we sent them a letter with a slew of information that we need. That's part of our unfair labor practice charges that we've had, is that the company has failed to provide the necessary information we need to cost out and evaluate proposals.
So when you get these Jamie Leary with CBS 4.
Hi, Jamie.
When they come back to the bargaining table with these offers, who makes the decision to say no to those? How many members are able to participate in that? And do you have a vote with your members to decide if this is acceptable or not?
Okay, so we've already taken a vote and the workers have authorized a strike, so that part of the process is over. The process during negotiations it's very transparent. So we have a member-led bargaining committee with about 47 rank-and-file members that work from city market through King Soopers, retail, me, all job classifications represented. But it's open to the general membership. So any member that attends becomes part of the bargaining committee, and they make the decisions whether to accept an offer, a proposal, or not. At some point, once we have offers on the table, and if it's a final offer or not, the bargaining committee will decide whether to reject it or recommend it. If it's a bargaining committee recommended offer, then we take it to the membership. If they're rejected, then that means, if it's rejected, then that means that we need further negotiations. I will tell you that the only offer on the table right now is ours. Our committee rejected the company's offer last week, and so they've been telling members and telling the community or telling the media that they want workers to vote an offer that's already been rejected. And by the way, it was contingent on the committee's recommendation, and it was concessionary. There's absolutely no reason, when this company has done so well, while businesses and restaurants were closed, those companies were thriving, but our workers didn't thrive. You know what our workers got? COVID, attacked, beat up, spit on, slapped on, overworked. And the company, they did great. They did absolutely great, sitting behind their desk, doing their job by Zoom.
So just to follow up for some clarity, like after 17 hours of negotiations, at the end of that day, do you guys get together and decide amongst the 47 representatives there?
So there's motions that are made, so we evaluate the proposals. See, that's the difference between our side and theirs. We have people that can make the decisions. It's all the members. It's a member-led committee. We evaluate their proposals. We ask them questions. Part of the problem is these out-of-state representatives don't know our contracts, and they haven't been able to even explain their own proposals, which frustrates the process. We came to the table, we've asked for extra dates, we've asked the company to stay, and you know what we deal with? Because we deal with out-of-state lawyers, out-of-state representatives, their flight schedules. They have to have hard stops, they can't meet late, they can't meet on these other days. And so it frustrates the process. We made it clear to King Soopers that we were serious and that time was of the essence. And then this is on them, that they let that contract expire without reaching an agreement. We had a proposal on the table, and we still have it on the table that they haven't responded to. So the only proposal on the table is ours. Yes.
Employees have complained that the union wouldn't attempt to negotiate and rejected all the Soopers offers without ever bringing the contract to the employees for a vote. Why is that?
So that's not how the process works. So first of all, it wasn't a final offer. When the company presented the offer was contingent on the bargaining committee's recommendation. And the bargaining committee turned it down. It's riddled with concessions. So what the company did is the company's only showing the workers the certain parts that look good, the juicy parts, the good parts. What they're not showing them is that if that contract was ratified today, we would have a funding issue on our health care. And that would absolutely wipe out any wage increase that these workers got, and the workers would be taking the risk on their health care. The other issue is that workers had already given us authorization to strike. And so there's not an offer on the table for them to vote. It's the company made their offer contingent, and it wasn't their final offer. This is why the company engaging in this unfair labor practice, they're directly dealing with our members, and they're not being honest or transparent with them.
You specifically listed one of your unfair labor practices just a minute ago that you're accusing Trevor of. Can you specifically list all of them?
Well, we have a bunch. I mean, we can provide that list to the media, but I can tell you that there are specific areas that it has an impact on. So, request for information. Safety is one of the top priorities for our members, and we've asked this company to provide information about the number of incidents where police have been involved in violent incidents that happened at the store. That's really important for us to evaluate our proposals, what we need. One of the things is we've had robberies, but they don't have panic buttons in the store for workers to be safe. And so we've requested a lot of information around the needs for safety. For documents for the information request, that's absolutely critical for us, because that's how we evaluate and cost out healthcare, pension proposals, wage proposals, bonus proposals. We need all of that information. The company has not responded to that. The company, instead of just giving, addressing wages, during the middle of the contract, just several weeks ago, they decided to unilaterally implement wage increases for only 6 of its stores and for only a few workers. And that is engaging and directly dealing with our members. That's a violation of the law. It's inappropriate. I mean, the list goes on and on. Instead of coming to the table and bargaining in good faith, the company has failed to do so.
Kim, what are some aspects of the union's proposal that you have on the table?
Oh, absolutely. So we have a bunch of stuff. One is safety. Obviously, we talked about a lot of the safety issues. We also have issues around safety around the pandemic, and also on the emergency temporary standard. The company has to negotiate with us before they can change COVID pay for the non-vaccinated workers, leaves of absence, that type of issue. That's on the table. The company hasn't addressed. Wages. The company is paying below market right now. And so there's some of the lowest wages in the state. Again, they're proposing an entry wage for $16 an hour for Denver Metro. That's 13 cents over minimum wage. Well, they're posting for replacement scab workers at $18 an hour, which is workers really upset about. Full-time. The majority of these jobs are part-time, and we're trying to find a faster path to full-time jobs. Like my sister said here, our brothers and sisters are struggling to afford to pay rent. We have a number of workers that are homeless or suffer from food insecurity because they're part-time, low-wage workers. And for the largest chain in the state, that's absolutely irresponsible, and that's just not right for our Colorado communities. We have an unfair two-tier wage system that the company treats workers that were hired after 2005. They have a lower wage compensation package, and they also have workers that work on the western slope. They make less money than the folks on the front range. Working for the same company, same standards, same policies. If a green apple is a green apple in Grand Junction, it takes the same, they should pay them the same for stocking those products here in Denver, and that's unfair. So we're trying to deal with the unfair two-tier system. The company has been outsourcing our jobs with staffing in third-party entities, and that hurts our pension plans, our health plans. It's also exploiting those unbenefited employees that work for places like Instacart or temporary agencies. They're not paying them a livable wage while they're not paying them or providing a pension plan or anything. It's also a safety issue. They do not do background checks with those third-party staffing agencies, and our members have had issues with them. Healthcare. We want to make sure that our grocery workers are healthy grocery workers. And because of COVID has taken a hit on our healthcare plans. When we bargained our contract in 2019, none of us knew what COVID-19 was. And so our health plans have taken a hit, and so we need more money in our health care plans. On pension, we want to make sure that our pension plan is secure and that we have benefits. There is an issue where workers that were hired between 2005 and 2010 do not have a benefit, even though contributions were going into the plan. We're trying to fix that. So there's a number of issues that we have with the company. It's about respect. It's about protecting these essential grocery workers and paying the grocery workers. When you work for the largest chain in the state of Colorado and the largest chain, their parent company in the United States, you shouldn't have to struggle. We shouldn't have homeless workers that are working to provide food that they can't even afford to buy. Our workers, you know how sad this is? Go into a King Soopers break room upstairs. King Soopers set up food pantries so that workers could share their own food. Instead of paying a wage where workers can buy healthy food for their own. The shame that King Soopers has put on these workers, the lack of respect that this company has given these workers. I mean, you can't call them essential and then treat them as disposable, treat them as sacrificial workers. They're not. Shame on King Soopers. Yes, absolutely. People are flying in from all over the country to help us with the strike. This is going to be a huge undertaking for us, and we have tremendous support. We have received so much support from not just here in Colorado, but from around the country. People are volunteering to come and help because this fight, there was just a strike in Portland with Kroger. Then here, they have big contracts. New Mexico's up, Southern California's up. We have contracts up in Seattle. And so this is Kroger's national plan and policy. I don't know that this fight is going to stop here. I believe this is going to continue around the country until Kroger changes.
Kim, so they reached an agreement with workers in Oregon, right?
Yes, they did.
And, I mean, looking at their agreement, do you consider it a good one? Is it something that King Soopers could try to replicate here?
You know, all of our contracts aren't the same. They have, they may have been a company that was recently purchased, or, they have different minimum wage levels. I know in some of these minimum wages across the country are well over $17 an hour. When our minimum wage is $12.58, it's different. So they do have different units, and ultimately it's up to the workers to decide whether it's a good contract or not.
Nancy, why won't the Colorado Springs workers be pulled at this time?
So there's a bunch of reasons for that, but one of the reasons is that we're going to pull Denver first. I mean, there's 78 stores here, and once we set up the picket lines here, Denver Metro alone is over 64 stores? 68 stores. And so once we get these lines up, we will be moving those lines over. We do have a number of other contracts around the state that are due to expire as well. So that's why we made the announcement. This can be larger than what most people believe. We have contracts that start to expire in the next couple of weeks, all the way through February 22nd.
Kim, if you aren't able to resolve the dispute, can you give the public an idea of what Wednesday will look like? How will stores be disrupted? What can shoppers expect?
Well, we will have picket lines in front of the stores, and we will be asking customers to support us by not shopping at the stores and taking their business elsewhere while we're, going through this dispute. The stores were already 2,400 workers short, and they haven't been able to staff these stores properly anyway. And so the company, instead of taking this serious and addressing the issue, because here's what our goal is. It's not to hurt King Soopers. What we want is to make King Soopers a better place to work, a place where people can afford. Because frankly, what's happening is the Great Resignation is real. And people can't afford to live in the city in which they work. And our members are telling us they can no longer work for King Soopers anymore unless something changes. And so I do believe that the company will have a hard time stocking shelves for anybody that does cross the picket line. I can tell you, based on the support we've received, we believe that the customers are going to side with the workers on this fight.
I guess are you concerned, you said you believe the customers will side with you, given inflation and rising prices right now, do you think that you'll get some kind of blowback? People will, blame rising prices on the union?
Well, prices have been rising and they're paying low wages, but we should not. You okay?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
My leg just gave out. Sorry, I just fell asleep. Yeah. Sorry.
Prices continue to rise without this dispute, but we shouldn't give the CEO and the corporate, corporate executives a pass that they're getting $1.5 billion in stock buybacks while grocery prices are moving up. These are the workers that are critical to the food supply chain. Those stores don't stock itself. Those stores don't cut meat itself. Those executives don't come in here and set those produce racks or check our customers out. It's the frontline worker. I don't believe that's going to be the cause for rising grocery prices, because they've been automating our jobs with all of these self-checkouts, and prices have not gone down, even though they're taking hours away from workers. So why doesn't the union conduct online voting? So we do operate under a different law. So under the Colorado Peace Act, if you're going to have a labor dispute like this, you have to have a secret ballot election, and you can't do a secret ballot election online. And so we're in a different position because of the law in the state.
Can you clarify again the last time this happened? You said this was the largest labor dispute, and then the last time this kind of a strike happened.
Right. In 1996, the Local 7, I wasn't president back then, but they engaged in what's called multi-employer bargaining, and they agreed to negotiate with King Soopers and Safeway as one group together. And it was more of an economic strike back then. King Soopers was trying to force concessions. So the King Soopers workers voted to strike, and to help them, Safeway, as the company, locked out its workers. And so back in 1996, there was really only 4 major grocers in the state of Colorado. It was Safeway, Albertsons, King Soopers, and Cub Foods. And so there's a lot more competition in Colorado now.
So this is the largest labor dispute since then, and if you go on strike, it's the first time you will have done so since then.
Yes. Judy?
Kim, you said in a recent release that the company had made some movement recently. Can you talk about that?
For Safeway or for King's?
Kings.
Okay, so for King's, they did have some concessions on the table, like taking away, eliminating overtime pay. They did move off of that proposal. But what they did was then they proposed language that would allow for gig workers. And a gig worker would be a special class of employees that would have basically super seniority, could work less hours, and that would have that would impact seniority, maximization of hours, and also our health plan. So they just moved one concessionary proposal to another one. Any other questions?
And then can you also clarify why we're only seeing action in the Denver metro area and then potentially Colorado Springs?
Sure. So all of our contracts do not have common expiration dates. So those stores that voted to strike, they are all expired. So except with the exception of Colorado Springs. So Colorado Springs workers on the meat side of the stores, their contract is still in effect through February 22nd. And on the retail side, they expired. But Denver, so Denver Metro is Denver, Aurora, Lakewood, Littleton, Highlands Ranch, it's the greater metropolitan area. Broomfield, Boulder, and Parker, they all expired on Saturday. That's the difference. We're not striking at stores where they're still under contract. Thank you for coming out tonight, and we appreciate this. And again, I want to thank the community. I want to thank our members for the tremendous support. And we are ready to get back to the table and get a good contract, but we need King Soopers to come to the table and bargain in good faith. Thank you.